Spiritual Psychosis PT2.
Part 2. Yeah, so in this particular segment, what I want to discuss is how people who work with spirits and have been working with spirits for like many years, and they suffer with any type of mental instability or any type of schizophrenia or any type of bipolar disorder, or anything that can affect their cognitive, easily affect their cognitive actions. That particular type of psychosis will cause the spirits that they're working with to be able to influence that. And sometimes a person will not know whether or not they're talking to a spirit or whether or not they're listening to their own mind or their own psychosis. So what you have to understand is that you have to have a strong mind when you are working in the spiritual realms. It doesn't matter particularly which tradition that you are practicing, whether it be Palo Mayombe, Kimbanda, Voodoo, Hoodoo, Obia, Ifa, Orisha, Santeria, Lukumi, Onisheshe, whatever it is that you may be practicing, where you are actually working to control forces that are outside of yourself, you have to have a strong mind. And the more spirits that you are responsible for, the stronger your mind have to be. Oftentimes, people have often asked me, like, Babalawo often asked me, before I was even initiated into Ifa, asked me, like, he didn't even know how many shrines I had in other traditions, and he was just like, why you got so many pots? I said, I don't know, I just had to receive them. And so, he was like, well, how do you control all those pots? And I said, I got a strong mind. They don't control me, and the way that I engage with them is not the way that a typical Tata would engage with his Nganga. Most Tatas engage with their Nganga from the perspective that the Mfumbe is a slave. I don't look at my Mfumbe as a slave, I look at my Mfumbe as family. That's my invisible family. Because originally, we were ancestral. Our ancestors' bones were in our Nganga. Now, because many people do not have access to that, we go to the cemetery, we do what we have to do to be able to procure that aspect of the Nganga, to be able to consecrate it properly. But for the most part, it was always our family. So even though all of the spirits are not my family, I still look at them as family and treat them like family. I always have. And so they don't have the intention to try to mess with my mind or hurt my mind or hurt me in any type of way, because they know that I'm the best custodian that they would ever have. I make sure that they have everything that they need in order to be able to exist in their world and in this world. And so when you have that type of connection with the entities that you're working with, you don't succumb to whatever psychosis you got going on. They're not going to try to hurt it. But if you're abusing those spirits, and you're making them do things that they don't want to do, you're cursing people without a cause, you're doing all these type of things, when those spirits get tired of doing that stuff that you're asking it to do on a daily basis, that it necessarily does not agree with it, wouldn't even agree with it when they were alive, so they're definitely not going to agree with it when they're dead, type of things that you may be asking them to do, then eventually they're going to turn on you and they stop protecting you the way that they would normally protect you. They stop providing for you the way that they would normally provide for you. And you'll know if it's witchcraft or them just not doing it, because your divination will let you know that it's not witchcraft. So what's going on? You know what I mean? And so they may even stop communicating with you through divination because they're tired of you abusing them in that way. And they'll start playing on your psychosis, and say your psychosis may be anything, but it will start playing on that and working through your life, through your psychosis. They'll utilize the weakness in your mind in order to be able to, make bad things happen for you if you are abusing them. Now, if you're taking very good care of them and you're treating them like family, they're never going to do that. And so a lot of people that I know over the years who have worked with spirits for so long have succumbed to this particular type of spiritual psychosis, where their spirits begin to start affecting their thought process and their thinking. And if you don't understand, if you really don't know the spirit of the dead that you may be working with, whether as a Tata or whatever. Like, if you don't know that spirit, if you don't know it, this is why we used our family, because we had some type of information about the way that they live when they were alive. And so we knew that if we put that person in an Nganga, that person is going to behave like this as a spirit. You know what I mean? So, you know, when you go to the cemetery and stuff like that, you may not always get the full story of that spirit, but that spirit may agree to go with you. And so sometimes today, when people practice these necromantic African traditional systems, they will go into the cemetery as they're taught to procure a particular spirit for their vessel or for their shrine. And so they don't really know who they're grabbing and what type of temperament this person was, what type of life this person lived, and so forth and so on. And so you take a chance. And sometimes when you do that, you can incur a spiritual psychosis based on the fact that that person, let's say that person liked to get high. Let's say that person liked to drink. Let's say that person liked to smoke cigarettes. Let's say that person liked to eat a certain food. When you work with that spirit for a long duration of time, that spirit will start projecting those particular things onto you. And you'll be like, damn, why the fuck did I pick up the cigarette habit? I don't fucking smoke cigarettes. And then you end up finding yourself smoking cigarettes, because the spirits that are around you will be trying to get that ache or that energy from that physical life through you. They'll begin to start living through you. And so when they do that, if you cannot control it with your mind and understand that you have these things working with you and working through you, then you can be controlled in a certain way. Okay? You'll be controlled in a certain way. And this particular psychosis is very dangerous for spiritual workers of the initiated type within the Congo, Angolan, and Bantu regions who work with necromancy, and the Palomayombes and the Kimbanderos and so forth who work with necromancy. And then on top of that, if you have any type of mental instabilities or any type of chemical imbalances going on in the brain, where you are also dealing with a natural psychosis, and then you put the spirits on top of that, man, it just becomes a recipe for disaster. And so my Tata always taught me that in order to be a good Tata, you had to have a strong mind. And I had always been a practitioner of meditation and things of that nature throughout my life, even before African traditional religion. Y'all gotta excuse that noise. I'm in my shrine room, and we give a lot of sacrifices. There's a few flies in here going into the fly zapper. But yeah, so, you know, he always told me that I had to have a strong mind. He said, because you're not going to always be in front of your Nganga. You're not going to always be in front of your shrine. So if somebody throws something at you, you have to be able to control that spirit with your mind. And that stuck with me. And that was one of the most valuable things that he could have taught me when he was alive. But this part 2 of this particular video, I wanted to stress about the spiritual psychosis in a sense of how spirits themselves can affect your psychosis and affect your mental state if you're not careful about the way that you work with them and you're not careful about the way that you treat them, especially over a long period of time. And you can clearly discern that by the way that you look at the quality of your life. Like, you know, me, I go through things. Everybody go through things. Every Tata, every Babalao that I know go through things. Everybody's going through things. You know what I mean? And it's not necessarily that people are practicing wrong or anything like that. Just life be life. And then you got to go to the spirits in order to make sure that, you know, you keep life in alignment. You know, because we make decisions as human beings that may sometimes lead us down a particular path that may not be conducive to our destiny. And this is one of the reasons why we always go to Ifa, because we check with Ifa to make sure that we're in alignment with our destiny, so that all the things that we're doing does not throw us off of what we were destined to do in this particular life. You feel me? So we want to make sure that we always have that psychosis in check. We want to make sure that we always have those spirits in check. You feel me? So I hope y'all got some value out of this video. Click the link in the description of the video if you want to book a consultation or if you want to work with me in any way, shape, or form. And I'll see y'all on part 3. Like, yeah.